Power presence is something that's here with you now. It's your own life force, your own consciousness, which is the very thing that underlies and defines life for us. If we were to die, if our bodies were to die, but we found that consciousness still remained, perhaps floating above our body, perhaps entering another realm, we would say, I'm still alive, I'm still here, wouldn't we? And it's that power of presence that's often overlooked for its healing power, for its ability to shed insight naturally into what's keeping us down mentally, spiritually, even physically. It's because we've lost the thread of this presence that we don't naturally bloom in all the ways that we might hope, or more accurately, that God has planned for each of us. And yes, God is our very life force, individually, collectively. Doesn't matter your religion, viewpoint about quote unquote God. We all know there's a greater force, a greater connectedness out there, whether we call it the universe, the higher power. The fact that science works in this universe is a testament to this. It could just be, the coincidences of statistics, but even that is like a higher power, right? Empowering, all these things work together. Math describes our universe. It's amazing. And so we can tap into that power by first noticing what is the root of our life, which is consciousness. And indeed, our quantum physics have told us that consciousness is the thing that solidifies matter, the thing that makes things real, quote unquote. And yet we often treat brain states, our mindfulness, our presence, our focus, our attention as secondary, tertiary, and onward, right? We put it at the very end. Even in our science, despite the physics, we don't start every study saying, well, this study was done in consciousness. And without consciousness interacting from our patients or our study participants to our analysis, there'd be none of this, right? And not only would we not be able to do it, but the material world wouldn't even be there without consciousness. Something that should start every scientific study is just an acknowledgement that consciousness modifies it, creates it, all these things that we're starting to learn, not just in woo-woo land, in actual science. And so we do well to remember that even in our everyday life, because when we lose the thread of it, we miss out on its healing properties. And in fact, presence is actually such a presence that it seeks to uplift us, to empower us. Most of the things we run into in life actually are inviting us back to presence, whether we know it or not. Think about it. Most issues in the human world come up because someone wasn't being present, being aware of something, wasn't caring, wasn't loving about something, right? In fact, a lot of our systemic issues are because the whole thing is built in an uncaring way. It's all about profit and getting richer. My first degree was in business, finance and econ, double major. And I remember being amazed at how much the markets are just dependent on a small amount of people's selfishness to behave the way they do. Our companies are formulated in a specific way that often, if you don't maximize profit as a manager, as a CEO, you can easily be fired. It's the most important part of your job for anyone working in the publicly traded space. And yet we don't have to create our business charters like that. That's a choice. We could say human capital is just as important as investment capital, but we don't, right? We minimize payments back to human capital. We maximize payments back to cash capital. And weirdly enough, this highlights the fundamental issue in the system, which is caring more about the idea of having money, because money's just an idea. We put a lot of numbers behind it, we keep track of it, but it's an idea that it holds value, right? If everyone believed $20 no longer held value, a $20 bill, no one would take it, no one would accept it, and banks wouldn't process it, right? It's all about perceived value, and we put no value as a structural economy on humanity itself. We minimize return to our human workers, human capital in economic terms. We maximize return on cash capital, just whatever came out of some rich person's pocket. And so this fundamental issue points back to this lack of presence, because presence is always caring. A true present awareness is about life because it is just pure life. It's when we get into our identities and who we are and what we think about people and all these old things that we carry, these old thoughts, that presence can't live its life and empower life. It's when I'm in my head that I think, well, that person looks like this and this and this, and so I shouldn't care about them, or they haven't done a good job, so they shouldn't be supported, or it could go 1,000 different ways, the way the mind undermines presence, just like our structural economy. And so returning to presence is an invitation on a personal level back to healthy mentality, sociality, social connection, and spirituality. Because when we look at all these spiritual teachers throughout the ages, what do we see? A pointing back to an awareness of life, capital L. A pointing back to the heaven within us, right? Jesus is a great example of how we can take a message about life, about awareness, about the love, the heaven that's within us, and should be coming from us, and we can turn it around even so, and say, well, no, it's really about being called a Christian and accepting him as a specific savior. Whereas he spoke as something broader, as something wider, as love itself, the life within each of us. That's how he spoke. Now, it makes sense, right? Because our minds are coming from these identified states, this lack of presence in our structural thinking, we project that onto Jesus. Oh, he's saying you really have to believe that he was around 2,000 years ago, and that Jesus is the way, but also the only way where everyone else gets sent to hell if they don't believe in his historicity. Whereas he said, yes, I am the only way because I am the way. He wasn't identifying as a person that we have to believe in. He was embodying what it means to be the way, loving others as ourselves. I mean, every time he spoke about it, he spoke broadly. I am the way, the truth, the life. He spoke about himself as transcending identity. And we know that even in the Christian world, and yet we often retranslate it because we're taught to, because we're afraid going to hell, being rejected by our peers, seeming to undermine our faith. There's a lot of reasons. But if we think critically, and especially if we bring presence to that question, it becomes pretty clear. And for non-Christians, it's very clear often, right? That it's not just about choosing, quote unquote, Jesus. It's about choosing Yeshua, about choosing life, love, God with us, and not a specific religion. So back to the topic at hand on another level, which is the fact that presence can heal us from our addictions. And this is something Jesus cared a lot about. Jesus asked us to pause, to turn within when we have our addictions, and to stop them, right? To stop the destructive behaviors we call sin in the English, but the etymology is very complicated and very interesting. But he's pointing to all those things that are keeping us in disconnection from community, from right living, from God. These are synonymous. God is right living because God is a quality, a being, a mode of being, and we are part of the body of Christ, of God, of Krishna, of many names for God, even in the Bible, right? El Shaddai, etc. We're part of that body as we live healthy and honestly, and embody love and unity. Often when the Bible tells us God is one, it's pointing us back to this unity and presence. And the way presence helps us through addiction is that when we hit a moment of turbulence, we can take a moment to enter a greater presence with ourselves, with life. And often as we enter the moment further, closer, more honestly, a lot of the issue falls away because a lot of it connects to our fears of the future, whatever the issue is, and our needs of the past, our hang-ups, our traumas. And when it comes to addiction, if we pause and step out of the mode of, well, I'm like this, I do this all the time, we'll note that awareness in and of itself is a healing presence. And when we enter identifying with it, identifying with our presence, we can step out of old modes of being and say no. Say this is hurting people, or this isn't very healthy for me, it's hurting me, and that hurts people I love, and on and on. A greater awareness brings that. And so what kind of practice would help with this kind of presence that can help us break out of addiction, help us let go of fear even, help us let go of hatred, all the negative things, even if maybe we think we love some of them, we'll find it's better not being in them, right? So what kind of practice would help? Well, one I really like, and it's one attested to throughout the ages. People talk about meditation practices like this, but it has kind of two sides that I've only heard of from specific individuals in the past, not many. It has two sides to it. And the first one is working on focus, attention. So as we often do in meditation, turning to the breath with our focus and choosing a specific part of the breath for that, such as the nose, the feelings in the nose. And then spending time with that focus while also allowing our peripheral awareness, the things that are happening around that feeling, to come into light. And if we're alone, it can just be in the body. Or if we're in presence with people, it can still just be in the body if we're practicing. Where we allow scanning of our body if we need a greater sense of peripheral awareness, if we're losing it. And it can sometimes jump between focus on the breath and that peripheral awareness, but the goal is to stay with the breath while also maintaining peripheral awareness. And as you do that, you'll find that a lot of the things that might have triggered you might still have a flash of feeling, but it goes by really quick because you're staying on the breath, or you're staying on whatever your meditation object is. It can be kind of anything, really. And in the long term, you might even choose to focus on specific topics. Maybe you're sharing a video. Maybe you're preparing for some kind of presentation. The power of presence can really help you dive into it when you're working on your ideas. And indeed, as you're presenting, it can help as well. But as I can attest, it can be hard to stay in a lot of presence with focus on something like the breath if I'm talking to a video. But the nice thing is, again, you can focus on the camera, focus on the subject, focus on whatever it is that works for you if you're doing something like that. And this can be applied to any job, to any approach to being that you want to have a greater presence in, whether it's connecting with your kids. I have a little one, she's 2. I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad. I have a part-time work, but the full-time stay-at-home dad is really the most important one in a lot of ways to me. Really, she's more important than any job. But in terms of a job, It's pretty important to me. And I find that it's really interesting to use presence when working with her, when being with her, when just being still with her. And a lot of things that we take for granted in our everyday life become more present. I can see when I'm wanting to be distracted. I can see when I need to step back and let her feel her feelings or do whatever she needs to do. Or when I need, or at least feel called to step forward, help teach, help interact, empower that loving connection that we have, and in a more active way. And so presence can really be something we practice all the time. And it's two parts: focus or attention and peripheral awareness can always be helpful. And so when we think about the issues of the world today, we can see where presence would be very helpful for some of our leaders. Because often as a leader, as someone who might have grown up with power, someone who identifies with belittling others or controlling things or whatever, they lack presence. And so they use their focus on belittling others, of dominating, of wanting more power, as their meditation, because that's what they know. And we can do that with any addiction, where the addiction becomes our meditation. And in a way, that's why we go back to it. And so you can see why it's so important to develop a personal practice daily, multiple times daily, whatever it takes. Different lengths of time work for different people. But more and more, right, we want to have a type of practice, even if it's interacting with others with that presence. And you can see how that would help people who have these addictive cycles with dominating and domineering. And really, when we enter that presence, you start to notice that you're not this limited being that you might have thought you were. You're something broader and brighter. And as you get used to this presence and learn from this presence, not only are you learning about the root causes of why you are and how to heal, or honestly, often just seeing these things helps a lot with the healing, you also turn to a greater sense of love, greater sense of warmth, and that sense of separation. I am this being and they are them, and here are all our differences, starts to naturally fall away, because you come to know yourself as the thing that connects all of us, even across the animal kingdom, right? We all are aware. And perhaps it even connects you further into the rest of the universe, even beyond that, because as we talked about earlier, in quantum physics, it points to consciousness as the thing that connects everything, allows for everything to be. And our great sages say that it goes further, and that everything is a mode of mind and consciousness. So thank you for joining me in this exploration today about presence. And if you have any questions about practice, about benefits of presence, I mean, we all know that there are a ton of benefits of meditation. Just have to keep them in mind to help motivate us. Hopefully this video has helped you with that. And hearing from people helps me with that, right? Because when you hear good or bad responses and reflections, or whatever kind of response or reflection, brings you into the moment, because it's interesting and it's relevant for our channel. So thank you for reaching out. Thank you so much, even more, for subscribing and liking. Without your support, we don't exist. We are part of the Swedenborgian Church at large, so if you want to learn more about them, check out our website at spiritualsunshine.org, or go straight to the spiritual denomination website at swedenborg.org. So thanks, and go forth, as always, knowing you are loved and are love.